Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the Cryptoverse. Today we're going to talk about the Bitcoin dominance. So if you guys like the content, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the premium list and the Telegram channel in the description below if you're interested in that. So let's go ahead and jump in. So this shows, that we've had these lines drawn for a really long time. I don't even remember exactly when I first drew these imaginary lines, basically where we talk about the Bitcoin dominance, and usually these are the charts that get me into trouble with some people, especially, say Bitcoin maximalists that think that, the dominance for Bitcoin is just going to essentially go back to, 90 to 100%. But regardless, ultimately speaking, we made a video on the Bitcoin dominance about a month ago, and we said that, if we were to follow past trends, then we might spike up to the top or close to the top of this, this imaginary line, just as we have in the past. So you can see back in, October of 2015, and we're going to show you where that was. So might be on this one. So let's go ahead and scroll all the way back to October of 2015. This was when we got above the 20-week moving average. So on October of 2015, you can see after we got above the 20-week, the dominance of Bitcoin continued going up for a while, and then it went sideways. Okay. Again here, we went when Bitcoin got above the 20-week moving average. Here, April 20th or thereabouts, you can see that again the dominance was going up into that milestone, and then once we hit that milestone, the dominance continued to go up, and it went up fairly rapidly. So again, when Bitcoin crosses the 20-week, it tends to get pretty bullish in the short term. And if you're watching the price action back in late April, when we came up to around $7,800, we were testing it for a couple days, and then we shot through it. And when we shot through it, we pretty quickly went up to $8,800. So we pretty quickly went up by $1,000. So it is a key milestone. If we break it to the upside, we usually tend to go up in the short term significantly, and then if we break it to the downside, then we tend to drop like a rock. If we're printing, say, like a weekly candle, where it's either closing above or below. So in the same manner as 2015, the Bitcoin dominance continued to go up in the short term, and if we go back to 2015, so right here, again, we went up in the short term, then we moved sideways. Okay, and then what happened to make this drop like a rock down to the lower trend line down here? So if you look again at this, it was in January of 2016, late January, we really started dropping. Go back to the Bitcoin chart, late January 2016 is here. This is when we came back down to the 20-week moving average and held it as support. Now, if you take a measured move from the peak here, or the local peak, down to the 20-week, Bitcoin had recently experienced a 20% drop. So a 20% drop today, where would that put us? So if we take a measured move and we just say, okay, well, let's take a 20% drop from today, that would actually put us at around $7,700 or so. Going down to the 20-week would put us at around negative 15%. And a lot of people in this situation might be bearish, and rightfully so, because if we were to drop below it, then there would definitely be a reason to be bearish. But if we hold it like we held it last time, even though Bitcoin was, a lot of people were bearish at this time because it seemed like, all right, this was just ultimately a fake out, everyone was excited, and then it seems like, oh, we're just going straight back down. But we didn't, we ended up holding the 20-week, and this is what propelled us into the next bull market. So if we go back to the dominance chart, you can see we came up, we had a really quick spike where essentially the entire market, the dominance of Bitcoin just went up very rapidly, and it's come back down. Now, what would it take for us to drop down to this level, to say down to a dominance of 56%? Right now we're at 64, and a drop down to 56% would be incredibly significant, because it would mean a lot of other coins like Ethereum and a lot of the other ones in the top 10 are performing very well. for us to drop back down to this level. Now, what would need to happen? Likely a confirmation of holding the 20-week moving average. Now, if that takes a while, we might move sideways for an extended period of time. You can see during the last time we did this, it took us, so from October, so let's say it was around on November, we were there for about 2 months or so, thereabouts. So around 2 months before we really started to drop. Now, if you follow this channel, you know we talk about lengthening cycles. Things aren't necessarily, obviously, I mean, even if it weren't a lengthening cycle, things wouldn't necessarily repeat themselves exactly in the same manner. But you do need to be prepared for a potential drop like this. And you can already see it going on in the cryptocurrency market. I mean, if you even pay half attention to what's going on, you can see that there's a lot of coins that have been moving significantly recently. You know, one of the coins we cover on the channel, Cardano, has moved up significantly. And you can just, you could go into CoinMarketCap and just see there's a ton of moon missions essentially on a lot of these coins. They get pumped really hard and then they get dumped. And I don't recommend chasing any of these coins. What you want to do is get into the projects that you believe in and wait for those moves to come to you. So that's what you want to do. And it's possible, in the short term, that we do see a lot more coins, but some of the bigger caps. So a lot of the smaller caps are easier to move because it doesn't take a lot of volume to really get their price moving. With coins like Ethereum, Cardano, Chainlink, others that are in, say, the top 10, 15, 20, it takes a lot of capital to get the price moving. So if you do see these coins start to really move, then it's going to likely bring us down to the bottom of this band. And I'm not going to say that we have to test the 20-week for that to happen. I mean, there's certainly a lot of bullish sentiment, but it seems to me that if we don't test the 20-week, if Bitcoin does not test the 20-week, and we just go straight to, say, 11,000, 12,000, 13,000, or 14,000 this summer, then it's going to still be hard for the rest of the market cap to keep up because they're competing with Bitcoin doing well. The way that we see dominance come down typically is when Bitcoin is just kind of staying flat or even dropping some, and then capital is kind of going out of Bitcoin and into other coins. This is when you see a lot of people take their their profits. They just say, oh, it's just on the house essentially at this point. Because I made so much money with Bitcoin, I'm going to throw it into these other coins and see what happens. And this is where you see moves where they, significantly go to the downside. But I do not anticipate the Bitcoin dominance dropping, much below this area. In fact, before we were to drop, say, well below this region, I would expect us to revisit the upper region at least once, maybe more than once. Because this is going to be a longer cycle, I think. And even if it weren't, you can go back and look at the prior cycle and see that we came down to the bottom at a 75% dominance and then came back to the top. And then what happened the second time? Why did we drop like a rock the second time? The Bitcoin dominance dropped again. Well, if you go back to the chart, and if you follow the channel, that in early 2017, this is when Bitcoin got to its previous all-time high. And it was this milestone that a lot of, it gets coverage on a lot of news stations. People then come into the market. They say, oh, well, the last time Bitcoin was at $1,000, all these other coins were a lot higher than they currently are today. And then a lot of money pours into that market, into the altcoin market. And then you essentially just rinse and repeat the cycle. So I would anticipate that happening. And this is why I say, at some point, Bitcoin will make a move to 20K. And at that point, the Bitcoin dominance will go up because the rest of the market won't be able to keep up. So I could easily see this being revisiting the upper part of the band, and then again revisiting it when Bitcoin makes around at 100K, because again the rest of the market will sit still. Now I know this is one of the drier videos that I put out, and it's not as popular as some of the other videos, but I do think it's important just to step back sometimes and look at the dominance of Bitcoin to try to get a feel for where we are in the market cycle. And you could even think of this as a reverse bubble in a sense. If you plotted the altcoin dominance, it would be different. But you can kind of see like the initial trap, and then it comes down. You kind of have a first peak, second peak, and then it retraces back to the normal back to, you know, a regression to the mean in a sense. So if we continue along this path, then we might expect to, you know, do something like where we, let me just try to roughly draw this. We maybe move sideways for a bit. Maybe we come back down and then come back up to the top. And this move here could be, I don't know how quickly it'll come, but if you know, Bitcoin gets back to say 20K in late 2021, then you might see it come to the top again right here. Maybe go back down to the bottom when we get to 20K and actually break through it at that point, and then come back up, and then as Bitcoin makes the run to $100,000, you know, it's gonna come back up and then ultimately drop like a rock potentially if you know, at the end of that run. Now these are just rough drawings, so I wouldn't really pay too much attention to it. I ultimately think Bitcoin will stay number one, you know, for a very long time. I don't see it being overthrown by any other cryptocurrencies, but you can't underestimate the, you know, the times when a lot of the rest of the market just starts to move, and if Bitcoin stays still, then the dominance can change very quickly. So I know some of you aren't going to necessarily appreciate this video, especially if you are more under the impression that, you know, the Bitcoin dominance is just going to, you know, slowly work its way back up. And I do think, I should say that I do think that, you know, 99.9% of all cryptocurrencies will likely die in the next decade or so. Many of them well before that. But I do think there's room in the market for coins besides Bitcoin. You know, I don't think that Bitcoin solves all the issues that exist, and it's certainly not going to be used as a peer-to-peer. Probably a stable coin would be, but there's also, you know, a lot of other niche areas that can be filled with a lot of different projects, including things like smart contracts, decentralized finance, and that sort of stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you do, please subscribe. If you guys like the content, want to see more of it, check out my my premium list at intothe-cryptoverse.com. You'll get access to a weekly report, a weekly video, and a Google Sheets dashboard with a lot of live risk metrics, as well as a logarithmic regression, over and undervaluation of the total cryptocurrency market cap, and then kind of some like projections based on different selling strategies. And if you want to get a discount, you can pay with cryptocurrency. So check out the website if you guys want access to the premium list. You'll get a welcome email bringing you on board and sending you all the prior content that we have. So we'd love to have you join there. And at the very least, at least subscribe to the channel and join the journey that we're going to be on for the next several years as we continue to just systematically work our way through the market cycle and use data science to kind of investigate what's going on. You know, I do sometimes make projections on here, but I try to focus a lot on what the data says and how we react to that data. So I hope you appreciate that and can just humor me if I'm putting on some type of projection. So, you know, what I like to say is just be ready for anything, any theory. You know, it could be wrong. One of the things we know about models, right, is they're all wrong, but some of them can be useful. So this is what I try to say. Just, you know, we have a lot of models, but ultimately just stick to a plan and go with that. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.